So good afternoon and welcome once again to the MindWell Suite. I'm your host, Fran Bishop, President and CEO of Aero Bodies, and I'm so pleased to welcome you back and for this special topic. This is going to be an absolutely fantastic topic because it's still on the minds of many people. Part one we had just last week about post-COVID strategies and how to prepare. This week, we're going to take a turn a little bit differently, and I'm super excited because I'm welcoming one of my favorite people, Sydney Craighart of Smart Simple Marketing. So today's topic is all about post-COVID strategies for small business owners. And again, I'm entertaining one of my favorite people, Sydney Craighart. So let me tell you a little bit about Sydney before we jump into the call. So Sydney is the CEO of Smart Simple Marketing, which is a content marketing consultancy. Since 2006, her award-winning team, has been helping small and diverse businesses of all sizes and sorts attract more clients and increase their revenue. So if you want to decrease the time that it takes to win a new contract and leverage the full power of your diverse status, Sydney is the person to talk to. I can personally tell you I've worked with Sydney as in a professional manner, but also in terms of content marketing for over 10 years now. And she is absolutely a phenom when it comes to it. But let me tell you something else special about Sid and her company. Sydney actually helps your team discover how to work with companies like Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Google, Verizon, and many more, because she actually touts those as many of her own clients today. So she's going to be bringing some of those award-winning strategies into our conversation today. And Sydney, I'd like to welcome you to the call.
Thanks so much, Fran. It's so fun to be here with you, and I'm really excited to be a guest at the MindWell Suite.
Fantastic, fantastic. So as we were preparing for this, we ping pong things back all the time about strategies, things that are showing up for people's businesses, the things that people are really concerned about these days. And a couple of different things came up last week. We had a couple of quotes from Wall Street Journal and also CNBC about the state of affairs of small business these days and what people are most concerned with, right? In terms of what's happening, what's showing up, the fact that there's a lot of fear mongering for their employees about coming back into the offices and things like that. So I'd like to kick off with, we're almost 3 months into this major health crisis, and it's affecting the whole world, right? So I don't care how big your business is. We've seen large businesses of large scale starting to file for bankruptcy, like Hertz, right? We've seen retailers like Neiman Marcus and Macy's go through major just completely restructuring and things like that. So what would you say the current state of affairs is when it comes to small businesses today and what small businesses are mainly concerned with?
That's an excellent question. Thank you for surfacing that. Yeah, I mean, no one is getting through this health crisis unscathed. We have all been affected in so many ways, personally and professionally, psychologically, emotionally. So we're all figuring it out. And still, 3 months in, there's no one who has any answers. But we are seeing some, now that we have, developed some there's been some space in the health crisis, and we've seen how businesses have been trying to pivot. We are starting to see some new research coming out about the impact of the health crisis on the small business community. In fact, Facebook just released some research last week that shared that 31% of the business owners they researched reported that their business is not currently operating. Among businesses that were led by women, that number is actually 55%. So there has been a tremendous impact just in the operational capacity of small businesses. There have been many businesses that have been shut down, some temporarily, some unfortunately have shut down permanently. Over a quarter of small businesses are saying that the biggest challenges they're facing is with cash flow because of the rapid shift in how COVID-19 impacted communities and the commercial market space. Cash flow just kind of dried up instantly. Contracts were canceled, consumers stopped spending as much or pivoted what they were spending their money on. So cash flow is definitely being affected, and that's something we're all trying to navigate through. In addition to that, over half of small businesses are really now trying to pivot to being more interactive online, being more engaging online, and just pivoting their business model to be more digitally focused. So we're seeing that, of course, there's a lot of small businesses that are closing, that are struggling, that are trying to figure out if they are going to be able to stay in business. At the same time, we're already starting to see a lot of new businesses popping up. So it's quite the situation in the small business community. We haven't seen anything like this in the recent past. And like I said at the beginning, we're all still figuring it out. So there is optimism. A lot of small business owners are still optimistic that they'll be able to survive and keep moving forward. They're trying to figure it out. And even for those who have had to shutter their current businesses, they're trying to figure out how to relaunch that in some new format or maybe shift to a different business. So there's just a lot of shifting happening, a lot of taking each day as it comes and trying to figure things out. And we're all collectively working on the same issues, which is providing a lot of camaraderie in our community right now, which is really nice to see.
That's excellent. I really appreciate many of those points you made, because I think that gets to the richness of the issues and kind of to the head of the issues that we're dealing with. So a lot of those points we're going to be talking about, particularly when it comes to, the strategies of things to stay away from. But something that you mentioned in your comments was with regards to how businesses are starting to shift the way in which they do business, right? So it's like, if you want to go to a conference now, before it was like, okay, if you wanted to do networking here in the district, and I know you're on the West Coast, there was something, probably 10 different opportunities a day. Now it seems like there's 20 to 30 different conferences each week. Everyone is taking very quickly and shifting their live conferences into a virtual format, which I think is very fantastic. But at the same time, I've also seen Zoomtopia, right? Where people are getting almost off-put by so much of the virtual experience. How are you finding, or what are you noticing in reference to what it takes for small businesses to prepare and stand out as they reopen their doors and try to shift to attract more business, but also to make, customers feel welcome to do business again, as opposed to just kind of, being in the same vault with everybody else and doing the same thing everybody else is doing?
Yeah, so, being that we're a content marketing consultancy, we've literally been creating content for small businesses since 2006. It's one of the first things that we started doing. In fact, the very first online activity we sold to a client was creating an email newsletter. So we've been encouraging small businesses to have a strong digital footprint for many, many years. And unfortunately, a lot of folks haven't kept up with that. They haven't maintained their digital presence. Some haven't even started a digital presence, and they certainly haven't been leveraging content marketing for all of its power and all of its value. And now, given the current circumstances, we cannot go out to networking events. Most of the industry conferences and programs that even personally I would attend have all been canceled for 2020. Many corporations are saying they're not even thinking about holding events until maybe mid-2021. So there aren't going to be a whole lot, if any, in-person connection opportunities for us to meet prospective clients, see existing clients, showcase our products and services, etc. So content marketing is the only marketing that you can do right now. And it comes, fortunately, in a variety of flavors and shapes and sizes, but that is what you need to be focusing on right now. And so the businesses that already even had a foundation for content marketing, and that could be being visible on social media and being active, having a blog, even businesses that regularly produce case studies and tip sheets and whatever types of content that they may have been producing, they're already a few steps ahead because they at least understand the value of that. So they are pivoting to expand their digital portfolio so they can show more of what it is that they have to offer, and also show their current relevant offerings to keep that conversation open and to continue to engage with prospects. The folks that haven't kept up with that or haven't had a virtual or digital presence, they're kind of ramping up quickly and trying to figure that out. And so that's one thing I really want your audience to know and want to share, both as from the perspective of being a small business owner. And I've worked with almost 9,000 small business owners over the last 14 years, is you really need to own your message. You need to understand your value, and you need to be able to convey that message and tell those stories in a compelling way. And content marketing allows you to do that. And there's just a plethora of tools available. So even if you're not super tech savvy, this is something you can learn how to do and get good at, because you really do need to be able to showcase the impact of the work that you do, so that your clients and your prospects can see that, and that opens the door for continued conversation, and that gets you those contracts that you're looking for.
I'm really glad you said that, because I think there are, and I'll put myself in that boat, right? There are many of us that are not specifically tech savvy when it comes to a lot of the newer tools. So side note to those of you who are watching, Sydney and I have had this running joke for years, because when she started me on my whole content marketing, journey, I was a hot mess. I was a hot mess. I'm not so much hot, but sometimes I'm a mess when it comes to tasting some of this stuff. This is just not my thing. I live in the world of health and health management, and I have folks on my team that are the pros when it comes to the technology piece. That is not something I can manage it well all day long with my eyes closed, but in terms of pushing the right button, even before we started this webinar, it was a mess. That was a throw to me, you guys. But that being said, Sid, I think that you hit on something really important, which is, if in fact this hasn't been your bailiwick, are there one or two strategies you would recommend to our listeners? Again, and I'm going to make this a little bit more dovetailed. So let's say, for instance, you're reopening your offices, and you're wearing the HR hat in the small business, right? And small businesses these days, guys, are defined as any business at 500 million and below. So those can be some very large small businesses, right? I mean, the PPE, I think the threshold was like 900. So you can have several hundred.
Huge.
Right? Exactly. So, you're really smart if you're a small business with 5 employees, and you can operate like a business that has 900 employees. If you're there, fantastic. But many of our listeners may not be. So are there one or two strategies, for instance, if you operate in the domain of a small business and you're coming back and you're having to communicate content internally again, are there, one or two strategies or one or two maybe technologies that you typically would recommend to a client to start to use?
Yes, definitely. So one of the first things that I would encourage you to do if you find yourself in this situation is to embrace video. I know it's uncomfortable. I remember back in the day when I personally did not feel comfortable being on video. I hated the sound of my own voice. I couldn't stand watching videos of myself. I get all of that, but it is the most powerful medium that you can use. So you have got to get comfortable with it. And you don't need a fancy Steven Spielberg production, in your home or your office to be able to do this well. We all have these smartphones we're walking around with. They have amazing cameras on them, and your videos don't have to be long. A video that's anywhere from 30 to 90 seconds, answering a specific question, addressing a specific concern, highlighting a specific solution, telling a short story, sharing a piece of research or a statistic. Those types of nuggets really empower your audience to get to know you. They can see your face, they can hear your voice, they can hear the warmth and the passion for what it is that you do. So you really, really need to embrace video. And the other great thing about video is that you can easily repurpose that video. So once the video is complete, if you'd like, you can extract the audio from that, and you can transcribe that audio and turn it into written content. If you decide maybe you want to start a podcast, you can do something with that. So there's all of these different ways you can repurpose a video that help you to get your message out, but that really build that connection, because we can't see each other face to face. Like, I would love to meet you in person right now and come and shake your hand or give you a hug. I'm a hugger, but I can't do that. So the only way that you and I can get to know each other is in a video conference like this or on a video. So you really, really need to get over yourself and get involved and embrace video. It's not about you. It's about allowing your customer to get to know you, to like you, and to trust you. So that would be the first strategy. The second strategy I would suggest, if you have not already done so, particularly if you're selling to government agencies or to corporations, you absolutely need to be active on LinkedIn. You need to have a well-optimized profile on LinkedIn. You need to take advantage of all the features, the summary, the keywords. You can put videos and examples of your work. You can put your work history, your recommendations. All of those features are incredibly important and powerful for you as a B2B salesperson. And frankly, it doesn't matter what business you're in, we're all in the business of sales. So you really need to take some time right now to optimize your LinkedIn profile, make sure that it's a current reflection of who you are, your personal brand, as well as what your company has to offer, because it's going to make a difference. In fact, I'll share with you that about 3 weeks ago, on a Friday, I got a connection request from a very, very, very senior level executive in a government agency. I mean, like pretty much at the top of the food chain, who I did not know, have never met before. She reached out to connect to me without any prompting. I didn't even know she existed. So I accepted her connection request. I sent back a friendly email just to say, thank you. You know, how are you and your family? I hope all is well. She wrote me back that Sunday. We actually dialogued all day Sunday back and forth in LinkedIn. And I ended up scheduling a meeting with her the following day because she was so excited and interested in what we do. And we're now in the process of organizing a contract for us to do some work with her. She found me. And one of the reasons she reached out to me was because she saw my LinkedIn profile. She saw me connected to someone else she knew. My keywords caught her attention. She went and looked at my profile and was like, she literally said to me, I don't know how I've never found you. Where have you been all my life? We have to talk and get to know each other. So LinkedIn is really, really powerful for creating those types of opportunities. And so if your LinkedIn profile is a little dusty, you need to take some time to get that up to speed, because that's a great way to create opportunity for your business.
Oh, I love that. That was bravo, bravo, bravo. And Sydney, you know, she totally does own LinkedIn. She works with them as a client, but she's also done some really, really masterful and really cool content marketing projects with them. I got the chance to participate in one last year. It was amazing, but she's done some really, really interesting things. So, you know, if you are having a chance to view this webinar, make sure you go follow her and take a look at her profile on Smart Simple Marketing on LinkedIn, because it's a really great profile, but you also see how she engages and interacts with the community on LinkedIn. And she's right. It is a force to be reckoned with. The second thing I think that she recommends which is wonderful, is the video. So I dove into the pond a couple of weeks ago, and she's right. I mean, I had no idea how trepidatious it was going to be for me, because I don't do it. I applaud myself as being a extrovert, but I'm telling you, I was like kicking and screaming internally to do the video. And I was like, what is my problem? I have been in front of people. I have been on stages. I have been doing this for 20 years. What is it? And it was really a mental thing for me. But once I finally got past it and I got it done, and it wasn't perfect. It was not perfect. It was like over, you know, like she said, it's behind you. I did 3 videos that week, and I did little video snippets. Remember, you were telling me to try that out in email. And to her credit, she was right. I actually you have your top 20 list, right, of clients you want to work with. And there's somebody on my top 20 list here in the DC area, and she's an EVP, very, 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 it's a global national firm. And she actually replied to one of my videos and said, have a great webinar. And that was all that she said. So she followed up the relationship. She didn't have to say anything at all. So that established something. And I know, because I've sent her several emails before, she never opened them. So I know it was because of video. So now the relationship has been breached and been opened. So you're absolutely spot on with that, Sydney, and cannot say enough. I mean, I think that now is the time. If you've never taken the time to do that with your small business, now is the time to jump into it.
Yeah, and I want to just add on one other thing that you mentioned, Fran. Stop trying to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect. Don't even attempt to make it perfect. It's not going to be. Just get into the habit of putting your content out there, seeing what kind of response you get, testing different messages, trying different formats, start doing it. You learn by doing, you get better by doing. I can't tell you how many small business owners I have coached before they came to me that were like, and have you tried this? Have you tried that? Well, yeah, but I was trying to get all my ducks in a row, and I really wanted it to be perfect and polished. And I'm not advocating putting out sloppy work that, Fran, that goes against everything I believe in. I believe in polished. I believe in beautiful, professional. I have a really great eye for design, etc. But when it comes to like a video, it's not going to be perfect. You may have a flub, or you may, mispronounce a word, whatever, just keep going. So don't wait to be perfect. Just start doing. You learn by doing, and you get results by doing. So I just really wanted to convey that message.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Well said. So let's shift gears a little bit now. We've dealt with the past, we've dealt with the present. Hopefully those of you who are on the call, if you're not a small business owner, but small business owners, you've received some PPE money, which was a big thing over the last 3 months. But now let's look ahead 6 months down the road, 12 months down the road. As small business owners, we're already 12 months ahead, right? We're already supposed to be looking at that. So Cindy, from your perspective, what trends do you expect to see happening over the next 12 months, even 24 months, if you will, when it comes to having businesses that are thriving through this health crisis?
So one thing I'll say is that there's actually going to be a lot of opportunity. It's unfortunate. And, I know businesses that have closed and that are really, really struggling. And it breaks my heart, because this is what I do all day, every day, is support small business owners. But the fact of the matter is that there are going to be a lot of businesses that don't make it. And so a lot of the companies that you are targeting, a lot of the government agencies that you are targeting, they are going to have a significant shift in their supply chain. They are going to need to onboard new vendors. They are going to need different types of supplies. They're going to need different types of services. And so you need to get yourself and stay ready. You really need to get outside of your own head and thinking about, this is what we do, and this is what we sell, and this is what we offer, and stop thinking about your business from your own perspective. You need to look inside of your industry, read between the lines, look at what's not being said, and really align yourself with what your clients need now, what they're going to need 6 months from now, and what they're going to need a year from now. And really be having those conversations and publishing that content and aligning yourself with those specific needs, because that's where the opportunities are going to come. So there is going to be a shift in the supply chain. It's not going to be pretty. We may lose friends along the way. I mean, not personal relationships, but we may see businesses that we know that we thought were very well established that fall to the wayside. And so if you're able to really understand how to pivot your business model and cater to this new marketplace and this new reality, you're going to put yourself in a very strong position, because that's where businesses are going to lose out. It's going to be a mindset issue on the part of the business owner. If they can't get out of their own way and really pivot to meet the needs of their customer, they're not going to make it. And you don't want to find yourself in that category. Another shift that or trend that I'm seeing, obviously you mentioned earlier, Fran, the virtual events, and everything's going to be virtual for probably the next year. And even when we do go back to having in-person events, they're not going to be the same. We are all now forever changed because of this health crisis. There is no going back to normal. We've crossed the threshold that we won't be going back to. So even if you're at a conference with 2,000 or 3,000 people, how that experience feels and how you show up, it's not going to be the same. And so mentally, again, you're going to have to adjust your mindset. And I expect to see more hybrid events, events with an in-person component and a virtual component. I expect to see the virtual conferencing technology continue to evolve and change and expand, so that there's so many ways now to create interaction and engagement, but that's going to continue to increase. And so we're going to have to adjust how we're used to interacting and how we are connecting with people. Zoom fatigue is real, video conferencing fatigue is real. I personally feel like I'm in front of a screen 24 hours a day because of what I do in my business and what I do in my personal life. So we're all going to have to get used to how to manage that, because this is how we're going to connect with and interact with each other. I also think in the space of supplier diversity, that professionals are going to have to be more available than they have been in the past. It's been really easy for a lot of supplier diversity folks to hide between their supplier diversity at, email address and go into the portal and we'll find you if we need you. And they're not going to be able to do that because they're going to have to get out and start meeting and connecting with people and making themselves more available. So I think, again, the space of supplier diversity is shifting. It's already been shifting toward digital engagement for the last 5 years or so. And now that shift is going to kind of take a sharp right turn and keep heading in that direction. So you really want to adjust your own mindset and get your content ready, get your stories ready, get your case studies ready, have your digital presence polished and reflective of what's happening, not just in your business now, but what you'll be able to do over the next 6 to 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, that's really good advice, Sydney. I think that one of the things that you said was spot on that I've heard again and again and again is you really need to look at, what's vertical to your market that makes sense for your market. Maybe you're not doing it, but what can you learn more about? She's mentioned the video piece many, many times. She's mentioned the virtual piece many, many times. So maybe there's someone that's in your industry that's already doing that well. Now that all these webinars and video conferences are free, now is the time to jump online. I've certainly been doing that and seeing how they harness that and how they do it well. There are so many virtual summits, if you will. In fact, Sydney had one in April called the Thrive Now, Keeping Your Small Business Going. And it was a fantastic summit. I think you still can get the information on it, can't you, Sydney, on Facebook?
Yeah, okay. And I can give you the link and you can share it with your audience.
That would be fantastic because it was really, really good. She had a number of speakers, but you can hear what other experts and other consultants are saying in the industry, like Sydney, and it's really important to be able to see that. I think the other thing in terms of thriving as a small business is learning how to pivot. We don't do a lot of virtual stuff. We are really known for the bricks and mortar type of pieces when it comes to health management, but also the systems behind that. So people see the front display of a wellness facility, but they don't know what happens behind that. So that's what we did up until March. And then all of a sudden we started getting calls for digital programming and for virtual programming. And can you handle this? Can you handle that? And it really made me think, okay, we've got to shift, we've got to pivot, and we have to be willing to pivot fast. We've done so and we're thriving, but it's only because we were willing to shift and listen to what the customers wanted. So to her point, it may not look pretty. In fact, I had one customer, we signed a contract and they said, look, we know that you're new at this. We know that this is a new contract, but that's okay. Just figure it out the best you could, which I haven't gotten that kind of space to screw up or not get it quite right in I think since I started my business 20 plus years ago. So that just helps you appreciate that we're all in this together in the sense that we're all learning together. To Sydney's point, people will give you a little grace period because they're recognizing, hey, they don't have it right either. So
we're all trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and it's a really, really good place to sit in and to remember. Anything else you want to say, Sydney, when it comes to, I guess, just planning from, I guess, not just a strategy standpoint, but any practical steps that people can take when it comes to, planning their marketing, for instance, or even their marketing or online digital platform processing over the next, 6 to 12 months? Anything else you want to add to that?
One thing I'll say is you definitely want to plan to be present consistently. So weekly, you should be publishing something, sending out some type of content. A week should not go by where you are not putting out some kind of messaging or doing some kind of outreach to prospective clients or even existing clients. So you need to schedule that time on your calendar and really honor that appointment. Treat it as your most important client, because it is. That's the client that keeps your business going, keeps revenue coming in the door. So you need to build that strategy or build that muscle and kind of build that reliability and consistency within your own team and within your own company. The other thing that I would suggest that you do is really take this opportunity to listen. You know, I have been doing a lot of speaking the last few weeks around this topic of helping small businesses figure out how to pivot. And one of the things that has always worked and that will continue to work is active listening. It's so simple, but sometimes we, as small business owners, we get an opportunity and we feel like this is our one shot, you know, that we've met this person and we only have one shot to convince them that we're the perfect vendor for them. And so we pitch. And we don't have a conversation and we don't listen. And if you can learn to how to manage those conversations well, when you do get a decision maker on the phone for 5, 10, 15 minutes, and how to use that time to keep that conversation going, that is going to have a dramatic impact on your revenue, just because you stopped talking and you started listening. Honestly, if you can shut up, your clients will tell you exactly what they want and what they need. But we often are so busy talking at them and trying to impress them and convince them that we don't even give them the space. And that's when we get that, well, thank you for your time. Go register in the portal and we'll find you when we need you. But if you create a dialogue and you listen, the floodgates will open. Like I do this every day. Like I'll be talking with my clients and I'll just ask 1 or 2 questions and they and they go on and on and on. And then, you know, I throw in some, well, you know, that's really interesting because we've seen this and I align myself to what they've said. Let's continue this conversation. Can we get another, 15, 20 minutes on the calendar next week? And that's how you build those relationships. So stop talking and listen to what your audience is telling you.
Well said. It's true. I mean, people will tell you what they want and what's on their mind, but you have to, I think so often we get, especially as small business owners, we get so driven on that sale. We're not even paying attention to what they need and they're explaining. And the really cool thing I think that I've heard from other consultants say too, is that sometimes it's listening to what else, right? So is there anything else? Because sometimes this is one issue they're dealing with, but they've got a whole host of issues or challenges that may align to something else that you can do, or you may know someone that can help them. And by in turn, you've provided a solution as well. And they see you as a problem solver. So those are really, really great strategies, Sid.
Yeah. And one other thing I'll say to that point is that it's really important that you do that you listen, because that's what builds the relationship. Because the decision makers you speak to are so used to people pitching them. No one does this. Like no one listens. No one actually tries to have a conversation. So if you're one of the few people that they can just enjoy talking to during the day, trust me, you are going to stand out. I've actually had people tell me that in like matchmaking appointments or in different conversations, that I actually feel like talking to you felt like a break. Like I feel refreshed, and I didn't say anything magical. I just tried to listen to what they had to say. So I really want to encourage you. It sounds so simple. Sometimes I tell people this stuff and they're like, she's got to be kidding me. Like, that's so simple. But it works. I'm telling you this because it works. So please learn how to be an active listener.
Yeah. And I think the other thing I would add to that is that, remember that they are now the playing field is even. Mm-hmm. And it's going to take a while for some of us, I'm putting myself in that boat, to realize that the playing field is so even. So it's interesting talking to clients now. We deal with a lot of government clients, huge multi-global organizations, and they will call and you're still thinking they are the client that's sitting behind that big desk and behind that, that heavy wooden door, and you can't get in to see them. You forget, oh no, they're sitting at their kitchen island or the makeshift closet office that they've created, just like you are. The kids are running in the back and you're telling them to shush. The other day I was on a conference call and my husband was coming down the stairs and we've got stairs that squeak, and I was like, shh, I'm still on the call. So and then they started laughing. I was like, okay, I'm so sorry. They're like, no, it's okay. We're doing the same thing. We have partners here. So you forget that. It's like, okay, yeah, that's right. We're all in this, we're all at home. So to her point, the fact that you're willing to listen and they see you, they really see you now as opposed to just another vendor. And they can have that real intimate but real life connection with you, completely changes the game. And you realize how that may open up more opportunities for you.
Yeah, exactly. It's so true. It's the simplest thing, but it actually is magical because it always works.
Yes, exactly. So as we kind of round the corner here towards the latter half, let's talk about recovery a little bit, right? Because we're all, different states have started to open up. They've lessened their procedures. We're going to have to see, what happens as a result of that. But, again, we're starting to see this rolling reopening. Everyone is inching towards a recovery, whatever that recovery looks like. So whether it's now or we have another recovery because we go back into this pandemic state later this year, as companies are looking to pivot, get ready for post-COVID, just prepare for the future. Any particular strategies that we want to think about from a small business perspective, Sydney, when it comes to our content marketing, when it comes to reopening doors, when it comes to, again, really planning ahead for the future?
Yeah, I think if we've learned anything from COVID, I'd say we've learned two things: the vital need to be prepared and the vital need to be flexible. So I know, because of a number of different sources that I'm connected to and just conversations I've had over the last week, there was a lot of challenges, for example, with the PPP loan process. It wasn't clear. Banks weren't set up to do it. The banks that were set up early to do it kind of screwed it up. I mean, there was all this stuff around the whole process. On the flip side, one thing we didn't hear about, which I know definitively to be true, is a lot of small businesses struggled with that process simply because they weren't prepared. As a small business owner, it is your responsibility to have your business affairs in order. You need to have your paperwork together. You need to have your articles in the corporation, like all of that stuff. As an example, that was requested in the PPP application, you should have been able to go to a file and pull that out and get it and then submit your application. Like literally, to submit our application took me 10 minutes. I got my papers, I downloaded my report from my payroll service, I filled it out, I sent it in. And 12 days later, the money was in our account. Now, granted, our bank was phenomenal. I mean, just phenomenal. Their communication was stellar. My payroll company made it really easy, but I played a part, right? Because of being organized. So, granted, it was not a smooth process. It still isn't. There's still people navigating that. So there's a lot of blame to be had on all sides. But as business owners, if we haven't learned anything else, we need to always be prepared. We need to be prepared for what we know could happen, and we need to be as prepared as we can for what we don't know could happen. So any levels of disorganization that you have in your business, we all have some. I have some too. Fran, you have some. We all have some. But this is the time where we need to be getting those ducks in a row and getting ourselves organized and cleaning up any little piles of disorganization that we have, because we don't know what's coming. We don't know what opportunities are going to be presented to us. And that's one of the easiest ways you're able to pivot, is when you're prepared and when you're organized. So that is one thing I would really highlight. The other thing I would say is flexibility, really being open to the needs of the market. I can't stress that enough. And I know this to be true because of the thousands of small business owners I've worked with. And one of the first things I learned as a business owner, that was taught to me by my first coach, was that business problems are personal problems in disguise. So many times the problems you're facing in your business, they're not necessarily a business problem. They're a problem with you as the business owner. It's a problem with your mindset. It's a problem with your habits. It's a problem with the way that you do things. And so you really need to embrace being flexible and understand that just because this is how you've always done something is not the way it needs to be. What got you here is not going to get you there. And things are going to be fluid for a while. We're not even in full recovery mode yet. Here in California, we're still pretty much shelter in place the way we have been for almost 3 months. Not much has changed. So things are going to be kind of wobbly for a little while. We're all going to be in this trying to figure it out mode. And that's going to require you mentally to be flexible. And so you've got to get okay with that. And you've got to get okay with being uncomfortable and the fact that you don't have the answers, and day to day, hour to hour, you're figuring it out. So that level of being flexible and really listening and being willing to respond to what your customers need and what they want, and not getting stuck on what you want or what you feel comfortable with, is going to be key. And you have got to get yourself prepared, because, there may be another pot of money coming from the government, or, supplier diversity may open up a ton of new opportunities for new suppliers. If you're not prepared, you're not going to be ready to step into that. And so I just really want to encourage our listeners to take heed to that preparation and that mental shift of being flexible, because that's going to be what makes or breaks your business over the next year and a half.
Absolutely. I would definitely echo that. I think that, well, I don't want to say too much, but I will say that I spoke to one of the advisors that we work with when it came to the PPE. Now, by that time that we got the PPE, we had our
PPP. You're talking about the PPP loan?
Thank you. By the time we had gotten our PPP, they were still working with someone to get their PPP, which was like, note to self, maybe they're not the best advisor or consultant that we should be working with, because it behooves you to be prepared. You have to be ready, because once things hit, is no time for you to try to prepare, right? You already have to have your ducks in a row. So she's absolutely on board with that. But the second piece is that you need to know, where you're going next. What do you have to do? Can you be nimble? Can you pivot? One of the reasons why large businesses love to work with smalls is because we know we're efficient, we're nimble, we're quick, and we're usually better with the price point because of those reasons. But if you have been so kind of caught up in your legacy of programming or legacy in the way you've done things up until now, that's not going to serve you well in this new environment. Again, the playing field is level. And I think this kind of gets to what you were saying in the beginning, Sid, is that this is also opening and creating an opening for a lot of new businesses or new folks to jump into the arena. If you guys have looked at the numbers lately, there's about 25 million people who are unemployed. Many of those people are not going to trust to go back to an employer. They're going to take on a shingle and try to figure out if they can do what you do, right? So if they can, that's competition. So things are getting ready to shake up, are already shaking up majorly, and we really have to be ready for that. So I love and applaud what you're saying about the preparation piece and the fact that we as small business owners have to be nimble, we have to be quick, we have to be flexible. Otherwise, we're not going to survive. Absolutely not. Anything else on the recovery that you want to add in terms of, and this is more so like things that our folks can kind of tune into as small business owners that may be coming down the track? I know you do a lot of conferences, you do a lot of speaking, you're involved with a lot of the digital IT firms out in the Silicon Valley area, being on the West Coast, but anything that's kind of coming down the trajectory you want to share?
Well, there's so much, but I'm not at liberty to share it. But one thing I will say is this is a tip that I often share. Your target companies, Fran, you mentioned, you have a list of 20, some people have 25, some people have 10, whatever your list is, you need to be paying really close attention to two things: what's being said about them in the news and what they're saying in their own newsroom. Every single company that you want to do business with, even government agencies, they have a news site on their website where they post press releases, they post articles, watch their social channels, see what's being said about them in the news. Like, I do a lot of work in the tech space, so I'm constantly reading like TechCrunch to see what's being said about my companies, even my existing clients. Sometimes I know more about what's happening in some of my clients' companies than they do because I keep up with it. So that applies across industry. I don't care who you sell to or what you're selling to them. You need to be in the know about what's happening in those companies, because that's often how you'll get those inside track details about what's happening at a company, just because you're paying attention from different sources and watching what's being shared. The dynamic is changing so rapidly. I was supposed to speak at one of my clients' events at the end of April. Of course, that didn't happen. And 2 weeks before that event, my contact was laid off. So, I mean, it's like these people are getting laid off and popping up at new jobs. And I know it seems like a lot, and I know it can be a little overwhelming, but if you're focused on who your target companies are, and even focused on who your key relationships are with, even if those people move around or even things are changing really quickly in those companies, you'll be able to stay in the know. And that's how you can really align yourself with what it is that they need. So you really need to be intentional about that. If you don't have a system or a process in place for that, you need to create one, because that's how you're going to be able to stay ahead of your competition.
Absolutely. And she's already given thank you for that, Sydney. She's already given some really good tips on how to do that. One is LinkedIn. LinkedIn does a fantastic job of their hashtags and thread. You can follow specifically the companies. There's a couple companies I follow on LinkedIn, and there's one, EVP that I have followed through different channels, and I'm always just following him, congratulating him when he gets another new promotion. Eventually that opportunity is going to open up into some business for me. But until then, I'm just a friendly acquaintance, and I congratulate him when he gets something new. The other one is Google. Get the Google alerts on these companies. So you're finding out, you can receive their press release. As she said, you can know what's going on. Nobody wants to be working with a company that's filing bankruptcy, right? Or who's going through some hard times. You should know about that ahead of time. Or even if they are, maybe that does open up an opportunity for your type of business, but you need to be aware of that. And I think the third thing I would add to that is that there's nothing better in terms of impressing a potential prospect more than knowing something about their company that is an asset to them, right? Now, you don't want to share with them necessarily news maybe about themselves they didn't know, but if it's something about their company maybe they weren't aware of, trust and believe. If they know that you brought that to them, that's always going to be in the back of their mind. So they know that you're a person who's aware, who's always kind of on the cutting edge. And so when there's an opportunity, you may be one of the first people that they think of. Would you agree with that, Sydney?
Oh, totally. I was on the phone with one of my clients last week, and a report about them had just been released literally the afternoon before. And he hadn't even had time to read it yet. And we were talking, and I said, yeah, it's really cool to see where you guys are headed. I saw in the research report. And he was like, yeah, man, I got to read that. What did it say? So we had a nice conversation about, just one or two points that I noticed, but I make it my business, because they're one of my best clients. I make it my business to know what's happening. Anything I can get my hands on, I'm always reading it. And I actually maintain my relationships inside that company, not just for new business opportunities, but just people in key departments or key teams, just so I can keep up with what's happening, because things change so fast. So I have people literally I can call or text and say, hey, I saw this, like, what's going on? And, we're under NDA because they're already our clients. So they'll tell me things, but that helps me connect the dots between other teams and helps me figure out, so they're doing that over there. Okay, then that means so-and-so has got this going on and I need to reach out to them. So you need to think strategically about your target companies and your relationships. And this is the time more than ever before for you to be focused. You cannot be all over the place and willy-nilly and, stay off the news, stop watching CNN and Fox or whatever it is you watch, but get really focused on who is it that I can do business with? What do I have to offer? And who is it in these companies that I need to connect with, that I can build a relationship with and eventually sell my offerings? The more you focus on that, the better results you're going to get.
I love it. Shameless plug for Sydney. So, again, I've been knowing Sydney for decades now, right? When she started her company, that was one of her intentions. And I have to say, honestly, and she did not pay me to say this, she doesn't know I'm going to say this, she is one of the best people I have ever seen at that. She can spy out things about a company better than anybody I know. And she does such a phenomenal job of finding a way to bring the content out that shines, not about the company, but about the way in which people want to do business with her. If you don't know how to do that, if you don't really know how to do the research and go behind the lens to figure out how you can tweak your offering to fit for this client, you need to call SSM. You need to call Sydney, because she's one of the best people I've ever seen to be able to do this, and does it in such a phenomenal way. So shameless plug to you, Sid.
Thank you.
Talk else I'm curious about what you think about this, though. So we touched on this a little bit, but I'd just love to know what your thought process is. So for those who, again, are thinking about new markets or new ways or new offerings, another thing that I think you do really well is you're really good at coming up with new what do you call offerings, right, for your business, or new things, whether it's a conference or marketing packages you've had in the past. You're really good at that. What would you say to listeners who are thinking about, again, creating a new offering to, again, seed the community or attract new business? What should they think about? Are there one or two or maybe three strategies they should think about when it comes to creating some sort of new offering to offer, put out?
Yeah, so the first thing to think about is it's easy for me to do that because, to be honest, it's kind of like a game to me. Like, I love to put stuff out there and see if people bite. And I've learned to not get emotionally attached to the outcome. So I'll give you an example. I did a talk last week and to a private audience, and I followed up with them with an email with an offer. Not one person took me up on it, not one. But that's okay, because I'll be seeing that group again next week and I'll have a chance to connect with them. Okay. But all that tells me is that my offer, either the what I offered or the way I presented it, it wasn't quite a fit. But based on the feedback I'm still getting from that audience, I'm going to tweak that and I'll present a different offer next week. So I think the first thing to say about that is so much of what you do in your business as the business owner, it becomes part of you, it becomes like this whole personal thing, and you have got to let that go. Like, being in business is a lot about testing. It's a lot about trying stuff. It's a lot of trial and error. You're going to find yourself with the virtual box of this stuff works, and you're going to have a much bigger box of stuff you tried that didn't work. And so you've got to be okay with that, and just kind of, again, always thinking from the perspective of your client and what they need, but just be willing to try stuff. That's how great businesses and great solutions and great services are born, because someone just put it out there and tried it, and they probably had 12 other versions of it that they tried before people really liked it. So that's the first thing, is the mindset. The second piece is keep it really simple. And people love boxes and kits and systems and like things that kind of come together, and this whole idea of, if I buy this box, it's going to solve this problem. And so when you're thinking about your offerings, try to think about very specifically what one problem you can solve, and what are all the different pieces that you need in that box, virtual box, physical box, whatever, to be able to deliver that. So you can say, hi, client A, if you buy this thing, then you will no longer have that problem, because that's what people are really giving you their money for. They want to eliminate problems. We pull out our credit card, we pull out cash, because if I give you this, I can push that problem out of the way. And so you want to make it easy for people to see your solution. And make sure the third thing is that you are accounting for all of the time and materials that your offering will take. You're building in some cushion, especially when you're testing it, because it's always going to take you longer than you think that it will. And that you get kind of factor all of that in terms of how you're presenting your offering. So hopefully those few strategies will point you in the right direction and get you started.
Excellent. I love that. Really, really nice, Sydney. I think that really kind of rounds out our conversation. I think that you've shared some really fantastic tips for people to think about, really keen strategies in terms of how to retool and get, if you've been kind of stuck for a while or kind of doing things the same way, how to kind of get that momentum going and think about your businesses a little bit differently. And then as you look to reopen, what you can do a lot differently. I'm going to kind of bring it to an end on that. But Sydney, anything you want to say in closing, or anything that you would like to offer to our listeners? I know that you're going to give us the Thrive Now Summit information, but anything else that's coming up that listeners want to look out for that Smart Simple Marketing may be doing?
Yeah, so one thing I'll share with you, I'm actually going to share my screen right now. So if you send me a text message, so my phone number for this resource is 33444. So that would be the phone number. And just put the word diverse, send me that as a text message. I will send you this checklist. This has some of my best tips on how to leverage your status as a diverse owned business to win lucrative contracts. And this is really important right now because the impact of COVID is even higher in the communities of people of color. We all know that. And a lot of corporations are really trying to double down on their supplier diversity efforts and engaging diverse owned businesses. So the tips and strategies that are included in this checklist are really, really powerful. Very simple, again, because I believe in simple, but they work because they've been working for me, and they're timeless. So they are not impacted by any health crisis or other circumstance. So send me a text, the word diverse, to 33444. Then you'll enter in your email address, and I'll be happy to get that in your hands. And that will also get you on the list for updates on events and trainings and other workshops that we will be hosting in the next weeks to come. So I'll have a chance to send you those invitations as they roll out, and you'll stay in the know and continue to get access to the insights and resources that we have to share.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sydney. This has been actually such a pleasure. We've been talking about this for a while. I've been talking about this since I've even wanted to get on with the webinar. So I finally did it.
Congratulations, Fran.
But all in all, this has been a fantastic conversation. I even learned some really good tips today that I'll be able to take back to my own team and put into place right away. I love what you were saying in reference to how do we really tool and really think about our content a little bit different and when it comes to our marketing for our small businesses. So very, very key and very, very important. So as we close and wrap up, again, I want to share with everyone again that all of this information will be posted later on tomorrow on the MindWell Suite homepage, right here, Mindfulness and Wellness for Top Executives. And as I tell you each week that we visit you from the MindWell Suite, mind yourself and your life will be sweet. Have a great afternoon.